And we're live.
Live, okay. Thank you, everyone, for joining this session, and I bid you a warm welcome. It's Alafa from Samoa, where I'm joining you from. It's really good to have all of us on the call, and I thank each and every one of you for joining this session. And I hope that over the next hour, we will all be able to enhance our understanding of disaster risk finance, both from the regional perspective and with a clear understanding of how that translates to the national, community, and household levels to help build resilience. As we all know, the theme of this year's resilience meeting is our people, our strength, our Pacific future. So it's on that basis that this session will shine the spotlight on a very specific element of strengthening resilience, which is community financial resilience. Hence the title of this session, Financial Protection Against Disasters, Strengthening Our Community, Focus in the Pacific. At this juncture, I want to quickly go over how the session will run. And we will start off with a quick poll, just to take the what I call taking the pulse of the audience, just to give us an idea of where we are when we start our session. And maybe we can come back at the end and check, hopefully, to see the effectiveness of the session. The first poll is just a single multi-choice question, and you can see it popping up. And it's basically asking you to, what do you think is the level of awareness and understanding of disaster risk financing at the community level in your country? So I'll quickly request, and if you can, input your responses to their poll. And at the end, we'll have a look at the results, and then I'll come and introduce our speakers. At the end of the speakers' presentations, we have 3 speakers for the session. At the end of the speakers' presentations, all 3, we'll give an opportunity for the audience to ask 3 questions. And then from that, we'll have another poll to really give us an understanding of how better we can engage with communities in terms of building financial resilience. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, I now refer you to the poll and kindly request that you put your responses into the poll. Again, as you see, the poll is asking the question, what do you think is the level of awareness and understanding of disaster risk financing at a community level in your countries? Is it very high awareness? Is it some awareness? Is it limited awareness? Or no awareness at all? While you're doing that, I kindly ask if the platform host can put up the results if they come through. Then we'll speak to that. Great. You can see that there's some level of awareness and limited awareness. There seems to be equal level of some awareness or limited awareness, but very little high awareness. And there's even a bit of a concern that there is no awareness in some of the communities. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for that. So very happy to be able to provide this session with the hope that we can improve those results showing on the poll. Thank you. So now we move into the substantial part of the session. And I would like to introduce our first speaker. And our first speaker is Mr. Bimo Dad from the Fiji Sugarcane Growers Council. He comes to us with over 20 years of experience in the sugarcane industry and with a focus on rural development with special focus on community resilience enhancement. In his current role, he has a mandate for over 12,000 active cane growers members, protecting the interests of cane growers, support services, and retention and sustainability of the industry. So, Mr. Bimel, my question for you is the Sugarcane Growers Council is the apex body of all sugarcane growers in Fiji and is therefore responsible for over 15,000 farmers in their households. What is the significant role that the Sugarcane Growers Council plays in supporting farmers and their communities after natural disasters and overall in building their resilience. Briefly highlight your experience of implementing the bundled microinsurance initiative and offering since 2017, and more recently in the parametric microinsurance, and how these have benefited farmers and their families.
Yeah, thank you, Carlos. Indeed, yeah, Sugarcane Growers Council is an apex body for all cane growers in Fiji, and yes, we have approximately 12,000 active cane farmers. However, we have 16,000 or so registered cane farmers, and we can literally see that number of cane farmers are inactive, absentee farmers, and they are good consolidated reasons associated with that. Yes, Sugarcane Growers Council has a very significant role in the industry, and we are the voice of the farmers. And when we mean we are the voice of the farmers, we have a very active role in the industry. So we more of protect the interest of the growers in terms of the industry developments and policies coming into the industry. However, when we look at the contribution the sugar economy is making towards the national economy, it is a significant, and it is something close to about 1% towards the, and of course, 132.8 million or so in the export earnings. So sugar happens to be a very, not really a backbone, but yeah, of course, a support to the other industry, and we uphold approximately 150,000 or so people associated with the industry directly or indirectly very much. When we talk about the post-natural disaster, yes, when we look at the industry very closely, we really didn't have a much payout system or a initiative that will protect the interest of the farmers. Now we can see when we talk about the parametric insurance, this is something that the industry has, and Sugarcane Growers Council has been in advocacy, providing the awareness in terms of the parametric insurance in particular. So we have realized that a good number of growers last year and the other year has, in the pilot years, I would say, has shown significant interest in getting themselves registered to the parametric insurance, and we have also witnessed a good amount of growers benefiting out of it last year, I would say, in the beginning of this year, I would say. And when we look at we are into a cyclone season, which started in October. And again, a good number of growers has shown interest in registering themselves for the parametric insurance. So what it really signifies is that the growers are aware of these products, are getting aware of these products, the initiatives and the support that they will get post-natural disaster, which was missing in the past years. So I'd like to comment on the work of UNCDF. The Sugarcane Growers Council, we are in partner with UNCDF in advocating this product and reaching out to the communities at a larger level. So when I look at my role here, I have a very huge responsibility when I look at the farmers' cash flow, the farmers' loss of income, due to catastrophes. So where farmers, the livelihood is very much affected. When we look at Cyclone Winston, when we look at Cyclone Yasa, which affected the north. So I would say previously farmers had not much choice but to get into loans for rehabilitation purposes. So that is probably coming in the micro insurance, getting into the system probably provides that some level of mitigation, and slowly it will get into its adaptation stage. When I talk about the bundle insurance, which started in 2017, this is to do with growers' welfare, and we are probably into the 6 to 7 years of this initiative, and this is working out very fantastically with our cane farmers. We have literally seen that farmers are receiving payout in case of natural, not really natural disasters. This is to do with deaths, funeral expenses, house fire, and personal accidents. So majority of our claims happens to be with funeral and deaths. And last year, 2022 season was one of the highest in terms of the payout. And this product is offered by Fiji Care Insurance. This year, again, we have processed about 156 claims worth of $378,000. So literally these monies have reached to the farming community. And our findings are such that majority of the payouts are received by the women segment. So women probably happens to be the next of kin of the male-dominated sugar industry, I would say. And the males are coming into frontline slowly. And when they receive these funds, they happen to open their bank accounts and they are in custodian of these funds and they are able to move ahead with ownership, getting the legalities, the governance perspective right in when they have some funds. So literally farmers, they receive, or the families, they receive $4,000 to $1,000 as the case may be. And the good part is that there is no age barrier or age limitations in this exercise. So when we look at in a holistic way, the agricultural sector, in particular, the sugarcane farming sector, the micro insurance is probably the way forward, providing the protection in case of post-natural disaster, especially cyclones. So people or the farmers, they lose 30% to 40% of their crop, which means there is a loss on their income as well. So we are very, very much in appreciation with these efforts, initiatives offered to the farming community, in particular the sugar industry, I would say, and government has also been quite supportive with some other initiatives that is coming out through the budgetary allocation in terms of productivity. So this is reaching out, and we have a very versatile approach in terms of reaching to our communities in terms of advocacy, and especially when we talk about the productivity. So the whole intention is to retain the growers in the farming community, because it happens to be their bread and butter. So it is very important that these sorts of protection is always available. And on the hindsight, we are also working on the crop insurance so that is available from time to time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ramel, for sharing your experience there. And indeed, the sugarcane industry is a very important part of the Fiji economy, and I'm sure the same examples can be cross-related to other members of growers associations and primary producers around the region. Thank you for sharing the vast services that you offer your members, and especially in terms of providing some sort of relief and resilience financial elements within the industry. So with that said, I'm glad to also bring into the conversation another aspect of resilience building in terms of another sector, especially around the government sector. And we have Sane Lolo from the Ministry of Finance from Tonga, who has been with the ministry for over a decade, working in various departments, including aid management. Sane currently heads the Climate and Disaster Resilience Financing Unit within the Ministry of Finance in Tonga. And we're very privileged to be able to hear the experience of Tonga, noting that Tonga is one of the most at-risk in the region. And in saying that, Sane, my specific question for you is around noting that Tonga has gone through several disasters in recent times, and it is one of the most vulnerable countries in the world. What has been the government's response to affected communities after Te Kita in 2018 and last year's volcanic eruption with the resulting tsunami? In particular, the social welfare scheme and disability welfare schemes. What were the community responses to this assistance offered by government? Sane, over to you.
Thank you, Carlos, for the introductions and the question, and I'm pleased to take part in this session. So, following Tropical Cyclone Kita in 2018 and the volcanic eruption and tsunami last year, I would also like to mention that we had Tropical Cyclone in 2020 and the eruption and tsunami were coupled with the COVID-19 outbreaks. So the government response to the affected community was both in cash and in kind. And as shown on the slides, that's the two social welfare schemes for the elderly and the disability were just in place before the tropical cyclone Kita occurred. So we found the program successful in a way that enabled the government to reach out in a timely manner to these groups, so they are able to recover quickly from the impact of the disasters. The scheme is well received at the community level, but the natural disasters are not new for us Tongans, but having one event after the other is very challenging. So the scheme is a relief for these groups. So while this assistance was provided by the government, there are other forms of support that we provided in parallel, particularly if these vulnerable groups need temporary accommodations if needed. So I must acknowledge the support provided by our development partners, which enabled the government to provide this support in addition to our recurrent the allocations from the government own resources. So having this welfare scheme in place, and that led to us to development of our Tonga's disaster risk financing strategy, which was adopted in 2021. And the strategy help to guide the government to ensure that the necessary resources to manage the adverse financial and economic impact of disasters is in place, and also help us allocate the scarce financial resources to respond to disasters. So the disaster risk financing strategy has 6 priorities, and one of these 6 priorities is to develop a shock responsive social protection system, in which we are currently working on it with the assistance of our development partners. I think I should stop from there, Carlos, and wait for further questions if needed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sani, and we are glad to have you join the call. I know you've been traveling and joining important international discussions around securing financing and development security and resilience for our region, especially for Tonga. So, ladies and gentlemen, participants, continuing on our focus on the various aspects and perspectives from different players in the DRF space, let us now move to someone from a very different sector, but an important sector in the machinery of building resilience, and that is the banking industry. So please allow me to introduce our third speaker, Ms. Celia Tuko, who is the General Manager of Awepanga Pau Tonga Development Bank Limited, and has been a manager since 2017. Prior to that, she had 38 experience as an executive in the development banking industry with experience in managing IT systems and managing bank teams. Celia is also a project manager for the Parametric Insurance Initiative in Tonga. And Celia, I hand over to you to share your experience, please.
Thank you, Carlos, for the introduction. And malolele to you all and Pacific greetings. I'll continue from Sanalolo. Here in the kingdom, the impacts of cyclones and pandemic are still top of mind. The January 2022 eruption, tsunami still remains fresh and triggered a demand for increased protection, and the need for household protection packages is prime. DDB's response to the following disaster and pandemic demands is outlined in the slide being shared. The first response is the loan repayment moratorium. DDB developed a loan repayment moratorium for the first time after Tropical Cyclone Ian in 2014 to help our customers who were struggling after the cyclone, allowing them to make those repayments over an extended period of time. The loan repayment moratorium is a continued response to all Tonga's climate disasters and pandemic. TDB's second response is the government development loans. The government of Tonga, through the Ministry of Finance and Tonga Development Bank, provided the people of Tonga with 1% and 3% government development loans since 2014. The main objective of this government development loan is to provide access to low-cost credit and to support recovery of these sectors: agriculture and forestry, fisheries, tourism, manufacturing, retailers and wholesalers, education, as well as the special facility. TDB's third response was after Tropical Cyclone Kita. Assistance was provided to smallholders borrowers with a reconstruction loan program. The purpose of this housing loan product was to assist the people of Tongatapu and Ewa with the reconstruction of homes that were affected by Tropical Cyclone Kita. This product was offered for 10 months in 2018 to allow for housing plans, contractors, and building supplies to be secured adequately. New construction must meet the building code requirements to ensure that the house can withstand a natural disaster at least at category 3. There was no processing fee and only 5% interest rate and no deposits. TDB's fourth response was with a 0% interest handicraft loan for women. This was assisted by UNCDF, and this is a partnership with Tonga National Workers' Council as a response to disaster recovery for the Hunga Tonga Hunga Hapai volcanic eruption and tsunami. TDB's fifth response was for the remittance clients. The Abe Pangabao TDB Limited is a first ever subsidiary company of the Tonga Development Bank, established in February 2017, and just a year old when TC Kita made landfall in Tonga. Abe Pangabao continued to provide a no-fee remittance product to our customers, ensuring that more money will reach the families in Tonga, especially our seasonal workers. During COVID-19 and also Hunga Tonga Hunga Hapai volcanic eruption and tsunami, Abe Pangabao, again assisted by UNCDF, provided a grant to assist Abe Pangabao lowering the FX margin for a total period of 12 months, reducing the cost for Tongans sending money home. Abe Pangabao has been most beneficial, especially to participants of the seasonal workers program in both New Zealand and Australia. The last response by Tonga Development Bank to disasters was through the paramedic insurance product. Tonga Development Bank, who is the main driver of the paramedic microinsurance product in Tonga, and the first paramedic insurance product to be introduced to Tonga. TDB, again with the assistance of UNCDF, partners with Tower Insurance to provide this wind cover product that is designed to protect vulnerable population against the adverse financial impacts of extreme weather hazards. This cyclone response cover provides a rapid cash out when a customer is impacted by high wind speed cyclone event, regardless of damage and without the need for an insurance assessor sign-off. Tower and TDB believes that this cyclone response cover will help dramatically increase insurance accessibility, particularly as climate change impacts increase over time. And as we know, that Tonga was ranked as the third most at-risk country for natural hazards in the 2021 World Risk Report. But according to Tower Insurance, like much of the Pacific, less than 10% of families have insurance. TDB has a vision to be the most essential financial service provider for every household in Tonga, and sees women as the gateway into every household. We can already see over the pilot period that majority of paramedic insurance policy holders are women. TDB targets to build on this vision and engage women as micro-entrepreneurs and preparing them to be risk management leaders in their homes. For the pilot, paramedic insurance customers have a choice of 3 products options ranging from top 1,000 to top 10,000 based on the amount of cover they feel they need to fast-track their recovery after a cyclone event. Paramedic insurance can provide some peace of mind at either a more affordable price point or in a situation where more traditional policies are simply unavailable. The claims process is also simpler and the payouts are faster. In conclusion, I would like to emphasize that most of these responses are possible with third-party support such as UNCDF, Government of Tonga, have provided to create access to credit on concessionary terms for recovery first and foremost, priority, then growth. Our TDB response is limited by the funding we have available to us, but we are also a delivery partner to the Green Climate Fund, and with an objective to assess funds to enhance climate finance, green banking, green investment within the sector, private sector, and also to facilitate programs through TDB. TDB is a bank and already has the infrastructure and system to have a financial reach throughout the kingdom. We have several programs with UNCDF, and strengthening the collaborations benefits the people of Tonga and good foundation for developing the MSME sector, which is the backbone of our economy. It is estimated to have 30,000 compared to 6,000 civil servants members and 15,000 other formal economy institutions. Commercial banks do not fund informal economy because it is beyond their risk appetite. It is, however, a target sector for Tonga Development Bank. TDB will continue to provide products to help address the financial protection needs of vulnerable segments of society with an inclusive approach and support communities in building their risk resilience. Malo Obito.
Thank you very much, Celia, for sharing with us the experience and the practical initiatives that the Development Bank of Tonga have put in place. And you rightly pointed out some of the challenges, but also it's encouraging that I think Tonga Development Bank is actually progressive in the Pacific in terms of tailoring products and instruments that are responsive to the community's needs. Now I'd like to thank all our speakers for the very broad and insightful sharings they have shared with us this afternoon. And now it's an opportunity for you, the audience, to please raise some questions. Anything you want further explanation on or expansion on, now is an opportunity. And we would also like to encourage you, if you can put up your hand, or if not, if you can put the questions, type your questions to the chat, if you're able to, and we'll be able to put those on your behalf onto the speakers, to the panelists. So we have a question on the chat. Would insurance be extended to cover loss of remittances due to issues in sending countries, such as Cyclone Gabriel impacts on RSA workers in New Zealand? I'll just repeat that question. Would insurances be extended to cover losses of remittances due to issues in sending countries, such as Cyclone Gabriel impacts on the RSA workers in New Zealand? That's an interesting question. I think that's probably a question for you, Celia, noting that it relates to remittances and the RSA workers.
Thank you, Carlos. Insurances for remittances, we don't have that insurance. The paramedic insurance that we are offering is for the location that they are covered for, and it is not for remittance. That's my answer.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I tend to concur with you in the sense that, while it's very good if you can extend insurance, unfortunately, the remittance valuation, if you understand the insurance industry, obviously the insurance premium will be based on the valuation and potential liability. But maybe it's something the financial gurus can look into, how they can devise a product that can cushion the impacts of losses of remittances, noting that most of our communities in the islands, to a large extent, and now with the expanded RSA workers, are becoming reliant on remittances as a form of income, but also in terms of cushioning for disasters. I have a question that's also on the chat. It's more specifically addressed towards the FRDP. And just on that note, I just want to encourage the audience that later on this afternoon, there is a learning lab where the learning lab will actually expand and talk a lot more about the FRDP and the midterm review. And you can raise any particular questions that you want to raise around the FRDP. The FRDP being obviously the framework for resilience development in the Pacific. However, there is a specific question that was put, is actually put to the moderator, myself. What are your recommendations for the FRDP moving forward till 2030? A very good question, and if you allow me just to address that in the context of the 250 strategy. As you're aware, the 250 strategy has a specific thematic area on climate and disasters, and would like to encourage that the FRDP becomes an implementing framework for the thematic area under climate change and disaster in the 250. I think it's very important that as we move towards 2030 and the implementation plan of the 250, also the current implementation plan, aiming to also concur or run concurrent in terms of timeline towards 2030, that the importance of integrating climate change and disaster risk cannot be undermined. Just because we have a new plan, the underlying fundamentals do not change, i.e. the increased frequency and intensity of disasters fueled by climate change continues to hamper our region. So the way I view it is that we actually should take the FRDP and bring it into the 250 strategy discussions, and especially around the implementation. There is a great risk, as I would like to put it, there's a great risk that we get detracted and start looking towards 250. But if you actually dive deep into 250, the implementation and the goals set out in the FRDP around integrating climate and disaster risk, about strengthening preparedness and resilience, about low carbon developments remained relevant, and they remain the key pillars for building resilience in the Pacific. So I think the FRDP will remain relevant, if not more so, especially as we look towards implementing 250 strategy. So I hope that answers your question, and again, encourage you to join the learning lab later on this afternoon into sessions where you can actually expand a bit more on that, and especially in terms of some of the key indicators coming through the midterm review. We now have another question on the chat. What do you feel is necessary to increase the awareness of and access to disaster risk financing instruments at the community level? What do you feel is necessary to increase the awareness of and access to DRF instruments at the community level? Maybe this is a question, if I may pass on to you, Vimel, noting your close association with rural development and rural communities. What is necessary to increase the awareness and access to disaster risk financing instruments at the community level? Please.
Thank you, Carlos. Yes, it's a very good question indeed, and yes, in fact, it's a contribution from both the sides. When I say both the sides, I mean from the community perspective as well. So our experience when we were, out in the field with the growers, so the expectation on the payout is always something, more than what it is. So when we talk about insurance, so there's always a different, perception set about insurance. And one is that the premium would be higher, the payout would be higher as well. So the micro insurance is a different ballgame altogether. And what we have realized that we always take up a cue from the bundle insurance, because it is also a micro insurance. So we always take up a cue that this is with a small premium, you have a small payout. So that is well captured. And if I would want to answer the question directly, yes, a lot of integration is required. A lot of community effort from both the sides is required. And in the case of sugarcane growers, myself, as we are the representative, we have officers out in the cane belt areas. So our team is on the ground. We have to communicate. We have to get involved into pocket meetings, face-to-face sessions, at a cooperative, we also have about 50 cooperatives operating in the cane farming belts. So we meet them on a regular basis, and we are also trying to get set up a dedicated platform for people to access and know about this product. And also we are also on the verge of conducting a scientific survey where we would be able to read people's situation on the ground, record it, and then we would be developing policies accordingly to address their day-to-day issues. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Vimal, for that response and providing some perspective on how you have dealt with those kind of issues. We have another question. Maybe we have time for 2 more questions. The other question is also insurance related and specifically asked towards Celia. So the question is from the Fiji Hub. How have payments premium mechanisms been simplified? I think there's also another question around how insurance can be made more accessible to the communities, given the low rate of adoption. Maybe you can tackle those 2 questions if you can see them on the chat. If not, I'll put it to you. The question specifically from Fiji Hub is, how have payment premiums and mechanisms been simplified? And I would like to tag along the other question that's also insurance related around the low awareness and uptake of resilience in the communities, and how can there be a better promotion of insurance uptake? Please, Celia.
Malo, Carlos, for the premium, we're still on the pilot phase. And what we've done in from last year, 2022 to now, we have allowed for the premium to be added on the small loans that, for example, the 0% loans that has been offered to our women in the community. So TDB allowed the premiums to be added to the loans. I think that was our response to that. For the community awareness, we believe, like Vimal has stated, that there's need a lot of awareness program for the community so that they can fully understand insurance as well as payout. Because we find even when we go out to the community and speak about traumatic insurance, the second time round, they will still be asking the same questions and not fully understand. So I think that we really need to put a lot more into community training and awareness, especially on insurance and paramedic insurance. Thank you, Carlos. If there's another question in relate to insurance that I'm not aware of.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to come back to you. So I'm just trying to manage this as well as we go. So apologies and excuse me if I do a little bit of this on the fly. Only because I'm monitoring the time as well, noting that these sessions are very time constricted. So I'm going to suggest, if I may, if we put up the, please, Katie, if you can put up the next poll. So the next poll, is, you can see it coming up there. It has 4 questions. 3 are multi-choice, and the fourth one requires you to make some inputs into it. So the first question is really, what can enhance community level participation in the formulation of a national disaster risk financing strategy? And just respond to that. And if you can, those who have access to their computers or their screens, if you can go through and put your inputs while we continue the discussions. There is quite a number of questions coming through in the chat. So there is another question also related to insurance, but I would like to bring San into the conversation as well. And it's actually a good question, and this is also reflective what's happening in the international financing space, especially around debts and the impacts of disasters on debt servicing. So the question is there debt relief for repayments of loans during times of disasters? So I just want to reframe it a little bit, and I think that's more specifically towards Celia, but from Zana's perspective, from governments, when you offer assistance, some of the communities already probably also carrying debt or incurred debt in response to disasters for immediate needs. So the question really, is there some sort of, from the bank's perspective, some relief in terms of debt repayments on loans, but from the government's perspective, is there some assistance to maybe loan alleviation or offering loan payments in the time of disasters to ease the financial burden? Maybe if Celia can come in first, and Zana, you can take on the back of that, please.
I think, Carlos, I think TDB's response to that is our first response to disaster is the loan moratorium. We allow the customers after a cyclone and during pandemic to, spread out the repayments, allowing them to make repayments over an extended period of time. I think that's TDB's response to that question. And I'd like Sani to respond to how the government can assist TDB customers during disaster with their loans.
Thank you, Celia, and thank you, Carlos. Yeah, I think that is what Celia was alluding to. That is what the government was assisted. That is how we assisted those who have debt in times of disaster. We work together with not only the TDB but also other banks, ANZ and PSB, to ensure that there's some level of the moratorium that they have provided to allow us. But that's what we do. We did during the TC Kita and the volcanic eruption.
Great, thank you very much, colleagues from Tonga, both Celia and Zane, for those responses. There is another question from RMI, and the question is really saying that these micro insurance schemes are not available in some of the countries, and how can they access that? A very fair question, and maybe I can respond to that question. So currently there is a project under the UNCDF rolling out micro insurance, parametric insurance, and they started with Fiji and Vanuatu as trial countries. They have expanded to Tonga, and as Celia was talking about that, I understand there are plans to roll that out in other countries as well. And my understanding, I'm not sure if Christian is on the call, but Christian leads that project in the region. And I definitely know that there is discussions to expand it to the Northern Pacific, starting with, I'm not sure if it's RMI or FSM, but definitely. So there's two elements to this. One is definitely the project is rolling out. And two, if you have a specific need for it and you think there will be a product that your country needs, I encourage you to get in contact with either with us at PIFS, and we'll put you in contact with the right people, or we'll give you contacts directly so you can contact Christian and the team from UNCDF directly. With that said, colleagues, I've just been corrected that there's only 3 questions on the poll, and that's okay, that's fine. So I encourage you to please put your responses to those questions so we can take analysis of the response to those questions towards the end of the session. One other question that's coming up in the chat from Fiji is, how do we ensure that insurance does not encourage people to continue to invest in hazardous places other than moving assets to safe places? An interesting question. Yes, I suppose you can say it's a hazard of insurance, or a negative impact, not intended impacts, but it's possible. Bemel, can I ask you to please tackle that question? How do we ensure that insurance does not encourage people to continue to invest in hazardous places other than moving assets to safer places? And I think there might be some experiences from the sugarcane industry. Please, Bemel.
Well, thanks, Carlos. Because this is not, this insurance is not to do with the property insurance, probably, Carlos. But I would like to, make a point that when we talk about the bundle insurance, the house fire is covered in the case of, how the dwellings damaged by fires. So there is a payout made to that. But when we look at the the property apart from or the chattels, I would say, so that is not covered. I mean, under this scheme. But when we look at the parametric insurance, it is more to do with the rain and the wind or the storm. So I really, that's my contribution to that colors. Thank you.
Thank you, Vimal, for that response. And if I can just add to that, so in the context of resilience building, I know this is a little bit of human behavior in the context of that question, but really in terms of resilience building, risk assessment and understanding the risk nature of where you're farming or where you're building your assets is an important element of discussion. And if you know that the area you're planning to place your assets, so to speak, are prone to certain disasters, then I think that's really irresponsible investment. And usually in the context of normal indemnity insurance, the premiums are also determined by the risk assessments. So obviously, if in terms of the indemnity type insurance, if you expose those assets to higher risk places, then obviously the premium will be larger. In terms of the parametric insurance, like Vimal was saying, I'm not aware of any particular assessments in that sense, but I think it's a question that those people in that space can probably tackle and put at their thinking when they're deciding these kind of products. With that said, I think I also encourage you, we have 10 minutes left, and I encourage you to please put your questions in and also respond to the poll. But if we don't have time to respond to all the questions, there's a lot of questions popping up, please be assured that we'll take those questions down. This is being recorded, and we'll try to respond to you by email if possible, and get the experts to respond to those particular questions. With that said, there's also another question for you, Vimal. So, Vimal, there's a lot of questions related to insurance. The question is, will the beneficiaries still get a payout if they don't suffer much of the damage?
I don't think so. There is any payout when there is, because when there is a trigger, even in the case of micro insurance, so the providers, they provide a feedback in terms of when the trigger event has been met. So in that case, then the payout is going to be made. So when there is no payout, that means the trigger event has not been met. In the case of parametric, so the beneficiaries won't receive any of the payout. In the case of micro bundle insurance, I would say yes, it is to do with the incident. So if there is a death, then of course there is a payout made. And in the case of personal injury, some sort of payment is made based on the medical report from the doctors. I hope I have answered the question, Carlos.
Yeah, thank you, Vimal. So just to whoever put up their question, so there's a clear distinction between parametric insurance and indemnity insurance. So in terms of the parametric insurance, like Vimal was saying, when the triggers have been met, usually the payout is made. If you stay within those, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time to be able to put up the charts and how the payouts are assessed based on where you live, how far you are away from the center of the storm, so to speak, the wind speeds, the level of rainfall. But normally, like Vimal was saying, when the triggers have been met, the payout is made. There is no assessment of damage. That's parametric insurance. Whereas in the case of indemnity insurance, then obviously the damages in extent of which is made before a payout is paid out. Colleagues, participants, with all due respect, may I please ask Katie if she could put up the results of the polls. Thank you, Katie. So I'm not sure if you can see it on the screen, but the first question: what can enhance community level participation in the formulation of national disaster risk financing strategies? So we have 50% requesting more awareness and understanding of the value add of disaster risk financing strategies. I think obviously some people picked more than one response or options, because the percentages add up to more than 100%, but that's okay, that's good. We get an indication of what's required to enhance community level participation. There needs to be a better understanding among all stakeholders. And the last level needs to be better understanding of the needs of the vulnerable groups. So instead of all the stakeholders, there's a specific request, 46%, to have a better understanding of the needs of vulnerable groups. So top of those options is a better understanding from all stakeholders of what's required to go into the strategy and their needs. Question 2, what do you think is the most effective way for governments to engage with communities, and in particular, women and other vulnerable groups, like the elderly and disabled persons, on issues related to disaster risk and resilience building? This is a few choices as well. So, through workshops held in the community settings, 29%. In communities, meetings run by local leaders and traditional leaders, 46%. And through materials produced or translated into the local language, 25%. So there seems to be an overwhelming support for in-community meetings run by local leaders and local traditional leaders in their kind of setting. So that's an important, I think, interesting outcome, in the sense that if you come into the community, there's also a growth in the acceptance that local communities probably listen to community leaders better than they would to external consultants. Question 3, what are the major impediments to meaningful engagement in DRF in a community level? First choice, there is a stigma, stereotype on community-based organizations. Actually, no one chose that option. So it's good to know that there is no stigma. So it is like an open invitation to actually encourage DRF awareness programs in the communities. Option 2, there's a lack of trust in financial discipline in the community level. Only 17% opted for that option. Convenience of just making decisions centrally, 8%. And the last choice, 75%. The major impediment seems to be insufficient government and private sector collaboration. So obviously there's an indication that there needs to be better collaboration between government and other stakeholders, including the involvement of the private sector. Interesting choices there. Thank you, audience, for those comments. Colleagues, now I would like to, with our remaining 5 minutes, if I can ask the speakers for your last comments, 1 minute each, please, and we can start with the same order we started. Vimel, then Sane, and then Celia. Please, Vimel, your last closing comments, please, 1 minute.
Thank you, Carlos. I would like to put up my last comments, and this is to basically I'll be talking about the payouts and the recipients. When we look at the recipients, what we realize, I think I have earlier made these comments, we realize that the females happens to be the most number of recipients. So when we realize the women have been in the front line in terms of the recipients receiving the payouts, the social issues also get addressed here very much. When we talk about the farming community, the ownership of the farm always a question mark after the departure of or the death of the breadwinner. So in this case, women are probably better off in terms of with small funds available with them, they are able to get out the legalities, the governance perspective correctly set with the path set. And of course, council also provides the legal services to the growers. So that becomes a very good package in terms of when we look at the governance perspective. The awareness perspective, we are reapproaching, the community, and we realize that the awareness, when it is reaching to the women segment, basically the acceptance or the adaptation is very high. The women tend to understand the product very carefully and very quickly. And of course, they also have a very influential role in the decision making at a very household level. So that is the approach that we are taking. And tomorrow we are celebrating the Rural Women's Day here in Lautoka. So we are inviting women to come in and participate in the session, and we are also, bringing women into some frontline in terms of their contribution towards the industry that they've been making quietly. And we want to get things done in a very professionally with women, of course, with the respect. Thank you. So those are my last comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vimil, and we are just on time. So our other colleague, Sane and Celia, has dropped off. But let me just finish by saying thank you very much for joining the session, and also to remind you that this session is actually tied to a finance and economic ministers meeting recently, where they endorsed the regional disaster risk financing roadmap, and that will lead on to and guideline, and that will lead on to upcoming work. Our team will actually visit countries and try and have workshops in actually developing country national disaster risk financing strategies. There is a question that hasn't been addressed, but I have the opportunity to address it now, is that what about countries that already have a disaster risk financing strategy? For example, Tonga, a very good question. And the idea around it, obviously when we do strategies, there's always an option to review. So for countries that have already developed strategies, it is important to also review and check the effectiveness. And there's an opportunity for better and enhanced and wider community consultations. We understand that some of the sessions when we visited the countries, the discussions came through that some of the stakeholders were not consulted. So on that basis, I think we'd like, and that's why the poll we put up for this session was really an indication to us, how can we better engage with stakeholders? With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I'd also like to thank the people behind the scene, obviously Mosese, our consultant who's been driving this session, Linda and Natishma for supporting it, Tia from PIFS, and all the team from the platform, VeriSign. We appreciate you being with us, and of course, the participants. We will not be able to have these sessions without your engagement, and we appreciate you being with us throughout this session. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you once again, and we hope to be able to respond to your sessions, to your questions in the session through the chat. We'll have the opportunity to do that. And thank you, Vimel, thank you, Sane, and for Celia for sharing your insights with our audience. From myself here in Samoa, thank you very much. Thank you, Tomas, Faftailasi, Vinaka Wakalebu. Have a blessed afternoon and the rest of the PRM sessions. Thank you.